In a quiet, small-town diner, a nurse lost her temper and slapped a 94-year-old Marine in front of everyone. But moments later, 15 Hells Angels walked in. And what they did next left the entire town speechless. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Where are you watching from? Let's get started. The blinds of Benny's Diner, a cozy roadside restaurant in the quiet town of Redwood, Montana. It was the kind of place where truckers, veterans, and locals gathered for strong coffee and good conversation. Among the regulars sat Frank "Gunny" Malone, a 94-year-old Marine veteran who'd seen more winters than most could imagine. Despite his age, Frank still wore his posture with pride, straight back, sharp eyes, and that unmistakable Marine calm. He came every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, ordered black coffee and a slice of apple pie, and always tipped generously. Everyone in town respected him, everyone, except Nurse Linda Carter. Linda was new in town, working at the local care home. She was in her late 30s, sharp-tongued, and carried a chip on her shoulder. That morning, she walked into Benny's in her scrubs, clearly in a rush and visibly irritated. The diner was packed, and there was only one open booth, the one right next to Frank. As she passed by, Frank smiled politely and said, "Morning, ma'am. Care for a seat? You look like you've had a rough start." Linda rolled her eyes. "I'm fine, old man. Just trying to get some breakfast without being talked to." A few heads turned. The waitress, Daisy, paused mid-step. Frank chuckled softly, not out of disrespect, but out of understanding. "Didn't mean no harm, young lady," he said kindly. But Linda wasn't having it. Her patience was gone and frustration boiled over. "You old guys think everyone owes you something because you fought in some war." She snapped. The entire diner fell silent. Forks stopped clinking. Even the radio behind the counter seemed to quiet down. Frank's face didn't change. He just looked at her calmly and said, "Ma'am, I don't expect anything from anyone. Just respect, the same kind I give." Something in his voice should have made her stop. But instead, Linda stepped closer, her anger blinding her. "Respect?" She barked, and before anyone could react, her hand shot out and slapped him across the face. The sharp sound echoed through the diner. Frank didn't move. He just sat there, his cheek red, his jaw clenched. Not from anger, but from hurt. And then the bell above the door jingled. Every head turned as a group of 15 leather-jacketed bikers walked in. The local Hells Angels chapter, a crew that often stopped by Benny's on their weekend rides. They were loud, rough-looking, and fiercely loyal to the old Marine who'd once helped some of their brothers turn their lives around. The leader, Reed "Razor" Dalton, saw Frank's red cheek and the nurse standing over him with her hand still trembling. His smile faded instantly. "Someone want to tell me," Reed said slowly, his voice like thunder in the silence, "why the hell our Marine's been hit?" The diner froze. The air grew thick with tension. Linda's face went pale as she realized what she had just done, and who had just walked in. What happened next would leave the whole town talking for years. We're locked on the scene, the trembling nurse, the old Marine sitting still, and 15 leather-clad bikers standing in the doorway, their jackets gleaming with the Hells Angels emblem. The leader, Reed "Razor" Dalton, stepped forward, his boots thudding against the diner floor. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes were cold. Behind him, the rest of the crew spread out, blocking the exit and filling the small space with an intimidating presence. Linda stumbled backward, her breath quickening. "I didn't mean, he was being rude," she stammered. Frank Malone slowly raised a hand, his voice calm and steady. "Stand down, boys. No need for trouble." But Reed didn't move. "Trouble?" he said, his deep voice echoing through the diner. "Gunny, you've been buying us breakfast for years. You patched up my brother after he wrecked his bike. You don't deserve this." The waitress, Daisy, placed a trembling hand over her mouth. She'd never seen the Angels this serious. Frank sighed. "Reed, son," she made a mistake. "Let's leave it at that." For a long moment, the bikers didn't speak. Then Reed slowly turned to the nurse. "You ever lift a hand to this man again?" he said in a low, gravelly voice. "And it won't be the town you'll have to answer to." It'll be us. Linda's face turned pale. She backed away until she hit the wall, her eyes wide with fear. I didn't know who he was, she whispered. Reed stepped closer. You don't need to know who he is. You just need to know he's earned respect you couldn't imagine. The rest of the bikers surrounded Frank, not to threaten, but to show solidarity. One of them placed a gentle hand on the old man's shoulder. You good, Gunny? Frank nodded slowly, a faint smile forming on his lips. Always am, son. Always am. Then Reed did something no one expected. He turned to the waitress and said, Give the nurse's bill to us. Gunny's coffee's on the house, forever. The tension broke like a wave. A few chuckles rippled through the diner. Even Frank let out a soft laugh. You boys are something else, he said, shaking his head. Linda stood frozen, humiliated but unharmed. She grabbed her purse and hurried out the door, her cheeks burning with shame. Outside, the sound of her car tires crunching over the snow faded into the distance. Inside, Reed raised his coffee cup. To Gunny Malone, the toughest Marine we've ever known. The bikers raised their mugs high, and the diner erupted in applause. Even Daisy, tears glistening in her eyes, whispered, Semper Fi, Gunny. Frank smiled softly. You fellas didn't need to do that, he said. Reed grinned. No, sir. But sometimes the town needs a reminder about respect. That day, the story spread faster than wildfire. By evening, everyone in Redwood knew what had happened at Benny's diner. The nurse left town the next morning, and the Hells Angels made sure the old Marine never ate alone again. And from that day on, a sign hung above Frank's usual booth, carved in wood by the bikers themselves.